I want to welcome Dr. Thomas Dobbins today and thank him for taking the time. Dr. Dobbins is the Associate Dean and Director of Cooperative Extension Services at Clemson, and he has been a very busy individual. And Dr. Dobbins, thank you so much for spending some time today. And tell us, this has just been an absolute 180-degree switch from all these individual programs. Give us a little bit of an overview of how everybody's managed to continue to serve the citizens of South Carolina.
Well, thank you, Amanda, for allowing me to be on Making It Grow. And first, I want to thank you guys on Making It Grow. Y'all did a switch overnight that is a different platform, something you wasn't used to doing, and you went to Skype meetings and recordings and editing. And I've got so many compliments on the show, and that so many people were afraid that you wouldn't be on the air because of COVID-19. But you guys, you and Sean and crew, flipped it around and have done a magnificent job. So I want to thank you guys first, and then I want to thank Millie Davenport at our HGIC. She did thank goodness, Amanda, we changed over the phone systems right before this hit, and it allowed her to switch over on it, and HGIC has not missed a beat. Those guys have been phenomenal in answering questions and transferring calls to them. And so it has been tremendous. But I have to give my leadership team all the credit in the world. When I met with them on March 15th for 6.5 hours that day, we were really tempers flared, mainly mine, and trying to transition our extension service into working remotely and to making sure that our clientele got all their needs. And if you had told me on March the 15th, when we had that 6.5 hour meeting, that we would still be in this predicament today, I would have really been upset. And so, but the whole system has transformed, and it's because of great people and people that have a passion for what they want to do, passionate to serve the citizens of South Carolina. And my leadership team, from the district directors to the program team directors, have rolled up their sleeves. They have worked night and day to make Extension stay alive in South Carolina, and I truly appreciate what all you guys have done for the Extension service.
Well, and also, Dr. Dobbins, we've here at Making It Grow have been able to tap in to resources at Extension that have never been available, because everything before, people had to come to Columbia. And I want to thank you for encouraging everyone to work with us remotely. And we've just made some wonderful new friends, and I think we've been able to get information out to citizens that we would not have otherwise. I know everybody's so busy, and if they have to take the time to learn a new program like Skype and all that, they've been very generous with their time. So thank you. But Dr. Dobbins, I don't think people even realize the whole breadth of, it used to be farms and 4-H and farms and 4-H, and boy, Extension is, I feel like we're almost like the federal government now. We're involved in so many things in a very positive way. And if it's all right with you, I thought we would just go through some of the different programs that we do have, and you could kind of explain a little bit how we've adapted, if that's all right.
That would be great. And I'm proud of each of our programs, and I have a lot to say about them. So that would be an outstanding way to do this.
Well, everybody thinks of 4-H, and who can't love 4-H? Children, animals, and all the sewing, all the wonderful things they do used to just be done so closely with their leaders. And of course, that's changed. So let's discuss that, Dr. Dobbins.
Well, the 4-H group and the 4-H agents have been the hardest hit by this. As you can imagine, what you just said, those agents are used to being around young people. They're used to interactions. They're used to having hugs and kisses and all of it with 4-H. And I think I would just say Patricia Whitener, when I announced that there would be no more contact until we got through this, called me, and she was in tears. She just said that it was awful that we couldn't meet with the young people. But they have been remarkable. Mark Cathcart in Union County has just done some creative things with videos and working along with all the other 4-H agents throughout the state. They have put programs online. They have reached not only South Carolina, but 50 other states and several international places. And so the 4-H group, even though they are still upset that we can't meet face to face right yet, They have done so many creative ways to get the word out and get things out about 4-H. They are currently working on a project to put 4-H in every school. Because you think about the schools being on a school board, our teachers need some activities for students to do other than their core curriculum activities, because those students that do attend school are locked in that classroom. And so they have to physical distance, and they have to make sure that, so there's very little movement, physical movement of those students, unlike they used to be. So they're looking for a lot of things to do. And so 4-H has stepped up to the plate again. And hopefully, Amanda, very soon I will be announcing that we can go back to small groups and especially outdoor group contacts for our 4-H groups. But again, my 4-H agents have done a great job in transforming. They're just an awesome group of people, very creative, very done a lot of things that you and I would not even think was possible. And so my hats go off to all of them.
And Dr. Dobbins, as some of our children are going to remain in virtual schools, the daily activities, I've just been so impressed because you don't have to run to the store to buy stuff. They've been so creative in thinking, what has somebody got in that drawer they needed to clean out that we can make a project with? Everybody's got a box sitting around. Everybody's got some buttons. Everybody's got some aluminum foil. And they've just come up with wonderful, fun, creative projects that are simple and if they can be used at home if you're in virtual situations or at schools, because school teachers have a limited budget. So again, I think they are an outstanding group of leaders, and we're so happy to have them as part of our team.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Dr. Dobbins, a lot of people are not aware of agribusiness, and but I guess when if farming isn't a business, I don't know what is when you look at the cost of equipment and the cost of land, cost of chemicals. So that's a team many people are not aware of, and they have all kinds of programs that had been ongoing, but they've really responded to the COVID situation, I believe.
They have. Our agribusiness team under the leadership of Nathan Smith and Dr. Kathy Coleman. Dr. Smith, they have rolled up their sleeves. And Amanda, during all this time that we've had, farm prices, commodity prices have hit an all-time low. And this has really put a burden on our farmers. Some of the COVID money off the federal side. And so Dr. Smith and Dr. Coleman and Kantrovich and the entire agribusiness team just jumped in. They are on daily calls with Harry Ott, with Farm Bureau, and with Commissioner Weathers, and putting together programs and meeting with farmers. Now, it's virtually meeting with farmers, but to make sure that they can adjust their budgets to meet what's coming ahead of us. And Amanda, you made a very great point when you said farming's not your daddy's farming anymore. Farming, to be a farmer today, any farming enterprise that we have, the smallest farming enterprise we have is a multi-million-dollar operation. And so decisions that they make, whether it's to irrigate, whether it's to add another application of fertilizer, it's a very cost-intensive practice, buying a new piece of equipment. So the agribusiness team has really stepped up and been given a lot of great advice during this pandemic, and helping our farmers and our small farmers stay on the farm and keep the plows plowing and the crops growing. And I cannot say enough about how hard they have worked during this pandemic.
And I know some of our food hubs that had been an outlet for some of the very small specialty farmers have, because of the restaurants closing, have not been able to have that direct line of sales going on. And I know the agribusiness team has helped some of those smaller specialty farmers find out how to go online and has helped them with that. So it's not just the giant people, it's the smaller people too. And every one of them is important in the health of the state of South Carolina, because we don't want to lose any more of our farmland in the state.
That's correct.
Then we go on to agronomic crops, and a lot of people, you might even want to explain to people what an agronomic crop is, Dr. Dobbins, and how those people are trying to safely advise their large farmers.
Well, the agronomic crops are the row crops. That's cotton, soybeans, peanuts, corn, small grain, sorghum. And I tell you, Jay Crouch and his team, Jonathan Croft, Charles Davis, When you really look at what they're doing out in the state, and of course Hannah Michael in your area, they have not missed a beat. Jay Crouch on day one said my team has to meet with farmers. So they got up with an idea. Jay and company came up with the idea of dropping pins where the crops are on the computer, and they would go to the field, look at the field, analyze the field, take a sample if they needed to, send it to Clemson, or give the farmer advice. During this time, we had a lot of farmers applying for pesticide licenses to make sure that they could put the right pesticides on their crop properly. And so we had to shut down all our large gatherings. So the agronomic team went one-to-one with a lot of these people and helped them get their certifications. As you know, dicamba is a big issue, and we had to have dicamba training. And so their team went in overdrive to make sure that our farmers had what they needed to not further themselves in debt. And as I mentioned earlier, because of the downward spiral in the commodity prices, our farmers didn't need any more hammers hitting them in the head. So I will say a big thank you goes to our agronomic team for the many hours they put in to ensure that our farmers had what they need to make sure that they could get the crop in. Now, Amanda, we got to help them get the crop out. We're still in the pandemic when harvesting starts. So they have been through this, the whole cycle of planting the seed to harvesting, and they've done an outstanding job.
And Dr. Dobbins, a lot of people sadly think that farmers use a lot of chemicals, but the cost of applying a chemical is extraordinarily, and they use a system called integrated pest management, which our agronomic team helps them with. And so they are the last people to make an application unless it's completely and absolutely necessary. So they really are stewards of the environment, if I may say so.
And Amanda, I wish I could get that point across to everybody. Our farmers are not going to over apply any chemical to any crop or to any livestock or to any, because you hit the nail on the head. Number one, they depend on the land to survive. And they're the best stewards of our land because the land is how they make their livelihood. And it is extremely expensive to put any application on any crop. So the last thing that a farmer wants to do is to put an application, whether it's fertilizer, whether it's water, or whether it's pesticide on that crop unless he has to. And so our agents are out there advising them. They have to make a profit to stay in business. And so that's a big part of it. So you're exactly right. Farmers are the best stewards of the land because they depend on the land for their livelihood.
Dr. Dobbins, I was kind of going in alphabetical order, but I'm going to switch over to horticulture because that's more related to agronomy, and then we'll hit some of the other topics. And horticulture can be large or small scale, can it?
Yes, and Amanda, horticulture, Corey Tanner is our program director in horticulture, and he is, I'm very excited to say he's been working with the governor and redoing the governor's mansion and making sure the grounds at the governor's mansions are beautiful. But a lot of people, you're right, get horticulture confused with just home gardening and home horticulture, which is landscaping. But our horticulture team, we have two. We have the commercial side, which is large farming, which is your fruits and vegetables. And for instance, W.P. Rawls is our largest green producer, not only in South Carolina, but in the United States of America. Not most people don't understand that. So Justin Ballou there in Lexington County works closely with Charles Wingard and company and with his large scale vegetable operations. And Tony Melton, as you well know, a person that's on this show a lot, works down in the PD area in large scale vegetable operations. We have a complete research center dedicated to the Coastal Plains Research Center is dedicated to vegetable production. And vegetable production and fruits and vegetables are going to be a big economic boom in South Carolina. We are poised to grow in that area, and Clemson's doing everything we can in that area. That being said, they have done a tremendous job in meeting the needs of all the commercial producers. And our home hort people have done an outstanding job in answering the problems that our home hort people need. They are taxpayers. They deserve the extension service just like everybody else. And so, again, they drop pins there. They take pictures. They have their clients send in pictures. it's been amazing to watch them. And you might have seen this. The horticulture team will send the pictures around to all the agents and get everybody's opinion, identification of either the plant disease or the plant pest. And then they will give a description of what it is. So it has been an in-service training by using pictures that our clientele has sent in to us, and then it helps everybody across the state. So our horticulture team has really, they have been tied in with HGIC. They have been remarkable in the way that they've been able to adapt to working during this pandemic.
And one thing too, Dr. Dobbins, I think we've had the great expansion at McCall Farms of canning, and that's a large part of what our agents help, Tony Milton particularly, and others help to make sure that our farmers can grow the products that are necessary to be canned or frozen in the state. I think Rawls is doing freezing. There's a good bit of processing going on now. And we're so proud that that can be a source of income for farmers as well.
No, you're exactly right. Rawls and McCall Farms. McCall Farms is a very big, as you know, a very big Clemson supporter. They're working with our Plant and Environmental Science Department on a big gift to further increasing the money to help grow the vegetable industry in South Carolina, putting it in the cans and making sure that we have highly nutritious food for our people is outstanding. We are expanding our vegetable production and research at the PD Rec Center. And so I want to personally thank McCall Farms for what they're doing for Clemson University and their investment for the future of vegetable production in South Carolina. My hat goes off to them for what they're doing for us.
And of course, the nursery production is just phenomenal right now because everyone is so interested in that. And our horticulture teams, I believe, some of the commercial people also advise the nursery producers in the state. Is that correct?
They do, Amanda, and what tickles me to death about it, one thing about the pandemic that's increased is home cooking has increased and home landscaping has increased. If you go to any of your big box stores, they're out of all landscaping materials. They sold out, and they did so. And so our horticulture team is helps and works directly with our big nurseries in South Carolina, and people don't realize that industry is tremendous in South Carolina. And so we have there again practicing good physical distancing and wearing our mask and doing the right things. But we have been able to also help our commercial horticulture industry and making sure that they keep healthy plants to their vendors. And it's been again another learning curve, but it's been something that I think that has really opened up opportunities for us in Extension to further the mission of Extension, and that's to help the people.
And our food safety systems and safety team is just hands together with that, making sure that everything that is going to be sold in South Carolina or served in a restaurant, that all of that from the time it's taken out of the field to when it goes to the restaurant and is on the table or put in a can, that all that's done with the proper procedures and safety.
I need to hire you as our public relations person. I know you do a great job with, but you're exactly right. When people say, well, what are you doing in Extension with food safety and how is it related to agriculture? It is agriculture because without food safety, we couldn't prepare the crops to eat. And our food safety team, Kimberly Baker and her team, has done such a phenomenal job. One of the things that you cannot find in stores now, Amanda, I thought that this was something that was long gone, but home canning. One of the biggest things that we've had that Kimberly's been doing over the last 6 months is she put all of her home canning information online and giving trainings in home canning. You cannot find a ball jar anywhere because people started using what she has put out or her team has put out with home canning. Also, all the restaurants and school cafeterias have to be certified with the Safe Serve program that Kimberly's done. Overnight, she put a lot of that information, certification information online where she could continue to offer that to the people to keep a safe food supply in South Carolina. And so they have been working. Again, people will ask, what is Extension doing? We're working overtime because to transform this onto the virtual web, and then to make sure that it's correct and to keep up with it and to make sure that you're keeping tally of who's taking what has been a tremendous job on her. And they just transformed again, kind of like making it grow. They did it overnight and have not complained a bit and just continue to do an outstanding job with this. And I'm so proud of them. People don't realize how proud I am of Extension.
And then Forestry and Wildlife, I'm a little bit of a tree hugger, but I know that trees are a renewable resource, and I have had trees harvesting on family property used to try to help my send children to college. I think many South Carolinians have, but that's a big area. And Dr. Dobbins, I know we really want to keep the mills operating. There was some setback in that. Forestry, I believe, is the largest component of the economic engine of agriculture that is the largest part of South Carolina's economic driver. And we have a wonderful team to make certain that that remains safe.
Well, Amanda, Dr. Pat Layton, she always gets on to me. If I talk about agriculture, I use big A, and that includes forestry. If I use little a, it doesn't include forestry. So I always use big A because I think forestry, tree farmers, and I think forestry is a huge agriculture product in South Carolina. And like you said, it is the largest segment. Derek Finney and his crew have, if you notice, if you go into any of the big box stores, again, Lowe's, Home Depot, you see that the wood aisle is very slim to none. And that's because of the effect COVID's had on the plants and on the sawmills. But they have been out working to try to keep the program started for our foresters, which is very important. The other thing that falls under Derek's team is water. And the water team, we got a newly created water team, and then we hit with COVID. They have been working with Matt Smith and training to get the word out about conservation of water, to educate our general public on agriculture use of water, the importance of agriculture water, and to show to the general public that farmers do not misuse water. Again, it's very expensive to put on. Now with the research doing at Blackboard Experiment Station, with Kendall Kirk and Michael Plumley doing it in irrigation, our irrigation systems now are tremendously efficient. With our precision ag work that we do with the computer programmings that we have, we can really be efficient in the application of water on our crops. And so you're right. Our natural resource team has been working overtime again to put their stuff on the virtual web and to make a lot of planning and moving forward. So people don't understand how much work they go into, and I hope that people understand when they go by and look at that forest, it's a lot of management to make a forest productive, and so that's what our team's there for.
And we have been able to, fortunately, showcase some of the prescribed burns and try to help people educate that and realize that after a prescribed burn, the amount of food that's available for small animals, for birds and pollinators is vastly increased. It's such a safety factor, and also can help prevent some of the situations that happens out west by keeping the debris, the flammable content load on the ground under control. Dr. Dobbins, also livestock, I think, is interesting. People are more interested in cooking, and since they're not eating out, I understand that more of the specialty livestock production, that some of those producers are really seeing an interest in people trying to come and purchase some of their products.
Amanda, Matt Burns and his team have, again, this has been you are exactly right. People want to buy the animal off the farm and have it processed. One of our biggest problems now, and this ties in with agribusiness, Nathan Smith and Matt Burns are working on processing facilities. You know that when you and I grew up, there was processing facilities for cattle and swine all over the state of South Carolina. Because of the big industry boom, we lost that. And now the biggest issue we have in beef cattle production in South Carolina is we have nowhere to process the animals. And so we're looking at developing a co-ops to build processing, the small processing facilities that all of us grew up with, where these people will have the opportunity when this pandemic's over with. I have a feeling they're still going to want locally grown products, which our Commissioner of Agriculture, Hugh Weathers, has done an outstanding job in promoting locally grown products. I think we're going to stick with that. And I think there's going to be a market for it. There's a need for it. And so our livestock and forage team is working night and day to come up with budgets, to come up with ways to get this done. So you're exactly right. They have kept on top of stuff as far as a lot of programs that they've got with their beef management programs to make sure that we produce what our citizens of South Carolina want.
I'm going to also remind people, when you were talking about water conservation, that we have programs that are aimed at individual citizens, and that's something that people, even at their own homes, are becoming more creative and careful about use of water with rain barrels and all the many things that the stormwater team has helped us realize how important it is that we take care there to avoid polluting downstream. Everybody lives downstream, I think, is their theme.
Yeah, our Carolina Clear program, the Kim Morganello is heading that up, and what they're working. And what I say now is that we cover water from the urbans to everywhere else, and I think it's very important that we understand that the runoff in big cities is a major problem. When you pave a road, when you pave a big box store parking lot, the amount of water that comes off of that and where it goes and what's in it when it goes down that stormwater drain is very important. And so our Carolina Clear group that works with a lot of our municipalities as well as our local county governments in stormwater runoff is doing an outstanding job in educating the people on proper water use, how to conserve water. It's not only the farmers that irrigate. If you go into a lot of cities, a lot of lawns are being irrigated, and it's their responsibility to be conservative of water as well as it is our big ag producers.
Dr. Dobbins, we're going to end up kind of where Extension started, which is in the rural areas of our state. Our rural health and nutrition, they serve clients who are in many ways most at need and most isolated. We know that the access to computers is not there, the cost of internet, and these are people who are the most vulnerable perhaps during this time, and yet our agents who serve in that capacity have hearts of gold to me and reach out to them. You were talking earlier to me before we started about your connection with your mother and taking care of her, and I think they almost have that relationship with some of their clients. How are they managing to help those people survive the isolation and the different difficulties that have been presented to them?
Oh, Amanda, this is one of the success stories that we have in Extension today in South Carolina. Michelle Parisi and Tarana Khan are heading up our FNEP and our rural health program. Our FNEP program works hand in hand with our rural health program and making sure, and that's our expanded food and education nutrition program, where we go in and try to work with lower socioeconomic disadvantaged people to make sure that they can eat healthy. And that's one of the things that keeps that our diet determines our health, and our health determines whether we go to the doctor or not go to the doctor. It determines our diabetes level. It determines high blood pressure. If we could get across that our diet, what we put in our mouth, can keep you out of the hospital or put you in the hospital, we have to do that. As you said, in rural South Carolina, internet connection is poor. A lot of them do not have a computer. And so we still maintain putting these programs out. Our health agents and our FNEP agents have gone out and continued to do small groups safely to educate these people. Our rural health program has expanded so well. We have received a national award from the National Diabetes Association. Michelle Parisi and that group, they've been very active in the COVID testing. And making arrangements to have rural communities tested. They have been very instrumental in telehealth and trying to get telehealth into our elderly population and our lower socioeconomic population to keep our communities thriving in South Carolina. And where they are doing their work is mission work. And I will tell you, that's what Extension's about, is to serve the people, all the people of South Carolina. And I think that these agents, my hats go off to them again, because they have got a true calling to do mission work as they work with this population in South Carolina to make sure that they are healthy. And that's a big thing. And the good thing about health, it has a lot to do with nutrition. And if we can get that that point across, if we can educate people on if you eat healthy, eat properly, you're going to spend a lot less money in the emergency room or wherever you go to get health care, and your life cycle will be a lot longer. If we could do that one thing, Amanda, we would be very successful in Extension.
Dr. Dobbins, I want to thank you so much for taking this time, and I want to take just a moment to thank some of the people that we often don't thank, and they're our administrators. Having been fortunate enough to work with Pat McDaniel, they're the real face. And when people come to the Clemson offices, I've been so proud, because regardless of whether it's somebody in a very expensive pair of fancy boots and who rode in a fancy car, or someone who needs to grow a garden to supplant and add to their limited funds, when you walk through the door at Clemson Extension offices, you are treated as a valuable member of our society. And I think that the attitude that you and the other leaders give focuses and drifts down through everyone. And our administrators, really, the people who are the front door of Clemson, they deserve our thanks. And I know that they're answering the phones and getting people to the right people now. And I think that it is a system-wide feeling of everyone in South Carolina deserves respect and the support of Clemson Extension. And I thank you for taking the time today to help explain how you have addressed this crisis, and for giving us help to do our very best to serve the citizens.
Well, Amanda, thank you. And I agree, the administrative assistants need to be, because they transformed again overnight. They took their phones and took the office, the physical office, from where they were to their homes, and made sure that we connected with every call. And that's an amazing thing that they did, and did so with a lot of pride, a lot of dignity, and a lot of passion.
I look forward to the day when we can all be together again, Dr. Dobbins.
You be safe.
I surely do, Amanda. I can't wait.
Thank you so much.